coming, so, but we, just to share that, there'll be people funneling in, yeah.
So should we wait a couple of more minutes, or?
I think we should.
Okay, we'll wait a couple of minutes. Okay. Thanks so much again for coming to another information session. Our goal tonight is to update you further on, we have been hearing you. You provided very good, productive input to us and feedback. And we also had the chance, this team, including Select, had a walkthrough of the site sometime last week, I think, Friday. And we looked at kind of original design, where it lands. And then we also looked at 120 feet from the residence, how everything would shape up. And also, we consider upcoming, zoning bylaw changes that 120 feet, and in some areas, if the planning board permits 75 feet from the property lines. So we work with Select, and I also would like to thank our partners here. They put their engineering hours. They made, multiple walkthroughs, and then they came up with multiple iterations of the design. So what we will share tonight with you is a couple of things. Number one, we really listen and hear you. So that's very important, that we are not trying to impose anything. Number two, based on the land, everything available, we try to come up with a design that would minimize the impact on our neighbors. Okay, from visibility, what it means for water contamination, what are the concerns. So I believe that last couple of designs we came up with would address those issues. The other aspect of it is you also ask about the financials, why we are doing this. So we'll share with you summary financials and options we looked at, and there is a recommended option that gives the best design for the neighbors and also optimum financials for us. Again, we're not talking about billions of dollars revenue or savings, but in a town that we are going to town meeting with $137,000 override request, every dime counts. So I want us to keep that in mind. So Brian also will take us through what is our electricity consumption need on the municipal side, how it's growing. And there were questions about, have you looked at school rooftop? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at other places? So Brian, put together a very good summary table to take you through. You look at some of those, yes, they can be. The other message that I would like to really relay, this is not a necessarily one project adventure, because our town, from the energy consumption point of view, we are going to continue to increase that given our goals that we set. We want to reduce the carbon footprint. At the same time, when we look at our budget deficit this year, we managed it, thanks to Finance Committee, School Committee, and some credit to Select Board as well. Initial anticipation was $1.4 million, $1.6 million. However, we started, we were going to come to town for override requests. We were able to bring it down to $137,000. But we still have pressure in front of us based on the predictions that, fiscal year 28, we might come to town for $1 million override request, and it will go up. So there is also the financial value of it to this town, not just this project, but we need to continue clean energy projects to reduce our costs. At the same time, potentially at one point introduce revenues for us, because we might be able to sell that extra energy, clean energy we produce to some other towns. So that is the plan, that kind of big picture I want to make sure that we are able to communicate. So with that, I'd like to turn it to Brian, and I'll hold this microphone with me. If any questions, please let me know. Then everyone who are watching or might watch it after the fact could hear your questions. Thank you.
Right, we were told that last session where everyone spoke into the mic, everyone could, on the recording, it was very easily heard, so appreciate that. And thank you all. I understand there was some kind of mix-up on the posting on the town website, so I appreciate everybody coming here. It sounds like at the last minute you found out about it in the last few days. And just so, Ahmed, you said earlier that there's still going to be a plan to have a April 16th session. That's the current idea?
That's the current plan, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm Brian Smith, Energy Advisory Committee. Thank you again. As Ahmed said, just want to reiterate, this purpose of the session is to work together to figure out how to balance all these competing needs. The town financial need, the cost is always exceeding the revenue. That's why you're seeing these overrides, and they're going to increase in the future. We want to minimize that tax burden. All of your neighbor concerns and the local impact, and figuring out a way to optimize the site. And then we have renewable energy and electrification goals that this project supports. These are the town commitments that we've spoke at previous sessions, the climate action plan goal, the electrification goal, and the emission reduction goals that we have laid out for the town. In response to a comment from a previous session, this is a overall view of the solar PV strategy in the town. The idea is that the top row, this shows you from 2025 all the way through 2050. We have said that our electric usage will increase by 60% in that time, during that time period. All the numbers in the table are kilowatt hours. The strategy has always, we've been working on this direction that we want to offset electric usage with these projects, whether it's a solar PV system on a roof or whether it's an independent system like this gravel pit system where you get credits to offset electric usage on the bill. There are 3 existing systems that are currently offsetting the bill or offsetting electric usage. One is the elementary school, that's a power purchase agreement. That was installed in approximately 2020, and it's a 20-year power purchase agreement. So you see here that that system, those credits from that PPA, that gets offset until 2040, and then it goes away. The other system on this building, the Council on Aging, that was installed 2024. It's another, well, we own that system, so it doesn't really have an expiration. It just keeps reducing its output over time. That's a smaller system. And then the other item we have is called the Athol PPA. That means that we have an off-taker agreement for a solar PV system in Athol, Massachusetts, and we get credits off our bill for that. And that ends out in 2037. So those are the existing accounts that we have where we have credits. And the rest of the table here shows you the key areas of that are opportunities to install solar. We did perform another review of all the town-owned parcels. There are many town-owned parcels. Most of them are, more of them, I think a majority are conservation restriction. But of the ones that are not conservation restriction, these are the ones that we are targeting. And this plan is a rough estimate about what those systems would look like and when they would happen. The Bromfield School roof has been, that's the largest building we have in town, and that's we have been discussing ways to put a system there and running up against several obstacles that we discussed before, which is mainly involved with the roof and the roof system on that building. But we plan on investigating that project further and figure out when that would happen and what size system that would go on that roof. The other background about that roof's project is that the HVAC system that's going to go on the rooftop units in the next few years is also part of that project is an opportunity to put together a solar roof system on there. It's part of that entire design, funded and partially funded by either MSBA or some other grant. So that's a long-term project. The other one that we've discussed is the Bromfield parking lot canopies. Previously, they've been rejected because of the high cost, but it's something that we need to revisit because the incentives have been changing, and there's an estimate here that could happen in the next 5 years or so, maybe further. The other one is the police public safety building roof. There was a quote, there was a proposal put together and considered a few years ago, and that was put on hold pending a roof replacement. So that's also here as estimated in 2035. The landfill ground mount, that's the parcel that's in the solar overlay district. Estimating that it's going to take several years, 10 years possibly, because there needs to be studies done. They have to go through and get the funding to cap it and close it in accordance with the regulations, and then start a project to put on there. And this is a long-term project. And then the gravel pit ground mount that we're here for, that is also a 20-year system, and those are the numbers. So what you see here is the word solar appetite. It means how much energy you're using that is remaining to offset with these future projects. So if you look at somewhere in the middle here, you have, or even at the end, by the time we're done, the electric usage is 4.1 million. You would offset it with an existing, the only existing system is this one on this building. That would leave an appetite of 4.1 million. And then you would reduce that appetite with these systems that we plan to install in the future. And that would, by the time you're done, you're showing that you have almost 1 million kilowatt hours left over that would remain not offset with some kind of a system.
Brian, may I just underline that this is the municipal usage,
Correct, yeah.
I'm just curious why you have a 10-year time frame for studies on the landfill, because under the Massachusetts contingency plan, there's usually a 5-year turnaround. The first 2 years is when the assessment is done on the property, and then the last 3 years or so is for remediation. So I'm just curious where you came up with the 10 years for studies.
That's not for studies, it's for the entire project. So you'd have to do the studies, do the capping, you have to find the funding, get the capping and closing process completed, and then you would put together a project that's similar to the one we're talking about.
If I may on that, after we get the notice from the CP, we have 3 years to cap it, that's for sure.
When you get the notice from who?
We don't know it, and our interim TA and our DPW director are in communication, so they're setting up some meetings, so we'll find that timeline actually sooner than later and the cost of it. But you are right, it could be 10 years, 5 years, so within that time frame. But we will communicate as soon as we hear that out, because it was a discussion topic. If you follow our Tuesday select board meeting, we had some discussions around that.
So that was an estimate, right?
You're right. I mean, the timelines could be different. Thank you.
And then there's a couple notes here. These are all need to be evaluated in more detail. There is the parcel number 2 that was identified in the bylaw. I'm calling that the Stowe Road 495 parcel. That is currently being evaluated for a potential microgrid project. It's a 10 megawatt multi-town microgrid project. There was an agreement, a no obligation agreement signed in the last few months to evaluate that entire project and program. Sure.
Could you just repeat that?
Sure, yeah. There's been an effort, an initiative that's being evaluated by the town, and I'm calling it's a microgrid project that would involve multiple towns, and the size is approximately 10 megawatts.
Was that the project in which I think it was Gina Ash's company came and presented to the select board a few months ago? That's still on the table? Is that what you're saying?
If I may.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Yes, that's still on the table, and the company called NextGen Energy, and they are working, and we are also working with state level activities, and if you look at the current governor's policies that they would like to come up with up to 20% in-state electricity production. So we are trying to be part of that activity. And in that next-gen energy project, the concept is to bring in minimum 5 towns into a consortium, and each town will bring in certain land or other structures to produce up to 10 megawatts of energy, including storage, battery storage, to deal with resiliency. And so far on that project, Harvard, as the lead, signed a memorandum of understanding, basically defined the structure, and this is available on the town website and through our select board meetings. And town of Air also joined the same memorandum of understanding. And town of Shirley, they presented to their select board meeting, and they are in the process of signing. So we are trying to get additional 3 or so towns to be part of it. So if you look at this table, that ideally that project will give us sufficient production to cover the energy need we have after everything said and done. The goal also of it is not just covering the demand for our municipal usage, but also have extra energy that we can monetize it and bring in town as the revenue. So that is moving on its track, but it is a little longer term because we don't have yet 5 or 6 towns to get that going. And we have support from our, state representatives for that. They are actually quite excited about that project. So we are looking at as parallel projects.
Thank you for explaining it. With all due respect, we've been kind of talking about this information centers kind of highlighting and focusing the gravel pit. But it does sound like the other parcel 82.1, Stowe Road, that there is real big steps being taken and in that direction. And I think it would be important to, when we're looking at the warrants, we're voting on that as well. And so to incorporate those neighbors and abutters and the people in that area as part of this conversation, I think would be really important.
Correct, but for this coming town meeting, we are not necessarily requesting the other parcel to be part of the lease permission. So if we look at the warrant article, I think 25, I might be incorrect with the numbers, but we are requesting permission to lease the gravel pit. But since the next-gen energy project hasn't matured yet to the level that we have this project, then we are not requesting yet that. If we have a fall town meeting, and probably we'll have, because we have a couple of other important things that we need to bring to the town, then it will come to the town's attention at that time.
I just think as an active citizen that it's important to highlight and express that there are already discussions about this. You've had meetings with NextGen publicly that can be watched, and so that people can be part of the process, and so really highlighting that more in the beginning stages. That is just, I think, important.
Correct. On the other hand, our highlights are more in forms of our public meetings. And NextGen came and we sponsored them at the select board meeting, and then we post slides. Okay, we are on slide number 1.
Do you have another comment? Yeah.
I agree, transparency is key. The one question around the Next Gen project is, if you've signed a memo of understanding, I think part of that 5-town consortium was we had to shell out as a town, I want to say $70,000 or $80,000. So I guess my question is, if we've signed an MOU on that, is that part of any of the warrant articles, any part of the override as we think about moving forward in the upcoming town meeting on May 2nd?
No. The MOU, number one, is non-binding. And, each party could decide not to go forward. The initial feasibility study cost was $75,000. And, they came back and they said, okay, you know what, we could invest as a next-gen company for half of it. So the current cost of it is around $37,500. And since we are not yet moving with that, we are not bringing the town's attention. It will be full. Plus, we applied for a $5 million grant. And if we get that, or if this project move forward, this feasibility study will be rebated to the town. Thank you.
The journey, where we're at now, as you can see from the fall all the way till this session, is that we started out with two sizes, the 3 megawatt and the 1.5 megawatt. And we've had several sessions. We have had two is the third one. And we also went on the site walk and considered all of the concerns as well as the bylaw modifications. Now we are moving toward the recommendation here is a 4-acre system that's 1.4 megawatts. So we're moving ahead with the smaller system. It's a little different than the original 1.5, just because the design has had to change. So this is, it's changing as we go. I know that there's been concern about how it's been moving around, but we're developing it and listening to all the issues.
And Brian, if I may chime in just here to emphasize that, our starting point, all the concerns you indicated, so we shaped the system in a manner that there is no battery, because there were concerns about the groundwater leakage. Even though technologically we believe, I don't think it's a concern, but we eliminated in this case for this project. And we shaped the project from initially 3 megawatt to 1.4 generation. And then this reduces the size and minimizes, trees. And Brian will talk about how we are dealing with the wildlife concerns as well. Thank you.
He mentioned about the battery that's been removed. The reduced footprint, and there's been an attempt by going through the site walk and working with Select to find the best location for that system to locate it on previously disturbed land, but that's not entirely possible because of the setbacks. It's also been an effort, you'll see, to move it to the north side as much as possible and keep it away from the I guess that's where the backside is, where all the nature and the wildlife corridor is. See, the same thing with glare. There's not expected to be any glare based on the way that these panels will be facing. Do you want to mention anything about that, or?
No, well, they're facing to the south, and there's a considerable buffer from both in terms of the topography and just in terms of the trees. It's probably about 300 feet or more, 350 feet approximately, from the property line to the edge of the solar system as you're looking at it from the south. So.
It would be helpful to be able to see a map of it, really.
we do have the maps and the designs coming up here.
This is a summary that one other major decision we made is that I'm proposing that it'll not be a capital purchase, it'll not be directly owned, it'll be a power purchase agreement, which means there is zero upfront cost for Harvard. We're using land in a more productive way as far as either cost reduction or revenue. And the total, for the proposed option, the total savings is $120,000 per year over 20 years. And that's a significant impact on our energy costs. As far as the process goes, we talked about how when we go to town meeting, that's you're voting for the bylaw changes and the lease agreement for this project. Then the town has to sign a credit purchase agreement, and then you have to go through all the town requirements for a site plan review. So that would include the planning board, the overall planning board review, the siting analysis, the soil testing, the Conservation Commission, the review by the fire and DPW, and then the interconnection study is happening at the same time. All those are in parallel. We would find out what the findings are for all of those efforts, and then determine if there's any modification or how to address all that feedback. That is a go, no-go. This means that during that time period, after town meeting, this project, there might be something that comes up where this project would not go forward. It could be for the financial reasons because of the interconnection requirements or any other reason. The question, we're talking about leading with this project to go forward with this project. I guess that's, and keeping and making sure that we are minimizing any impact on the environment. There's been a lot of questions. We highlighted 3 of them here. Just so you can see it in writing, that the first question is, are we rushing it without enough input? It is certainly not as been as you would expect, but we have been working and analyzing the project as well as incorporating any public feedback. There will be, as we said before, there'll be a planning board review, and all of these concerns will be, it'll be possible to address whatever is written in that bylaw change as well as any other feedback. Second question is, what about the other sites? Why does it have to be at the gravel pit? We've discussed that the gravel pit has been mentioned before for multiple uses, and we think that that's a good fit for solar. And we're not limiting ourselves to just the gravel pit. We're looking at all areas in town, and we just mentioned that. Another question is about, is it really worth it financially? What are we really getting? Is it significant? I mentioned the structural deficit. The structural deficit for FY31 is $5 million. So we need to take action as best we can to look for opportunities as a town. The $120,000 a year is a little bit higher than the expected annual revenues from new construction. So as you can see, the town is only bringing in an additional $100,000 a year. That's not going to address the increased $5 million. The $5 million loss in FY31 would require an override, and you're not going to get there with the just property tax revenues. Byron's going, from Select, is going to talk about the design.
So the designs presented, we've got a bunch of different designs as they were created kind of in chronological order, so you can see how the system has changed over time. So it may be helpful to go through these, and then if you have questions, feel free to ask. This was the original 3 megawatt system size that we had. The next one is further back. You can see it's yep, it's a smaller system, pushed further back into the lot. You know, shorter setbacks.
It is also more southbound here.
Then
The second original design was pushing more towards south here on this line.
and then we came up with 2 additional designs. One had 120-foot setbacks all the way around, and you can see it started to move the system a little bit further north. And there was interest in exploring the furthest north, area to see if that would be possible. So what we did was in the next, that was a 3D rendering of that one. You can see, well, actually, it's important to see, we're keeping the trees all the way around in the setback area. So rather than clearing to the property line, in this case, we're keeping 120 feet of trees going all the way around to the perimeter of the fence.
If I may, the key parameters to pay attention in this new design is the setback is 120 feet from all the sites, from where the residents are and where the ACT land is, okay? And the goal that we set for Select, come up with a design within the setback and minimize the tree cutting. And then also how we can deal with the wildlife, we don't want to block their travels across the land. So this is the design they came up with. And with these parameters, we reduce the size capacity of the generation a little. So originally it was 1.5, so this came more 1.3 megawatt generation. Still respectable, but this kind of how the parameters are. And then we had a site walk, and before that we received some feedback from, some of you, and they said, well, can we push it more north here, okay, and more area that looks more distracted already. So then next design that we requested to Select to see what we can do about that.
And one other thing here too is we have the transformer on this side on the northwest, and some of the feedback was, although it's really does not generate much noise at all, the preference was to keep it further from the homes. So in the next slide, you can see where, I don't know if Ahmet can point it out, but we moved the transformer to the other side. We decreased the setbacks from the east to 75 feet, which enables us to further move the system up from the south. And we maintained the 120-foot buffer from the west side.
So if I just do, show and tell here, we maintained 120 feet buffer from the main residence on this side. And then this is more ACT land. And based on the new suggested zoning bylaws, we can come under the purview of planning board up to 75 feet. So as we increase this dimension, then we are able to push it further north. So that way, we are impacting less trees. So that is one of the key things in this design. The other aspect of it is this, transformers and other gear in the original design was on this side, a little closer to the residence. So we push it to the other side, that to the ACT land. So again, we believe it's really, you will never hear it over 495. So that's for sure. But we push it this way. And then there was also this request. Well, there is also an area here that can you use that because it's already distracted. So we look into that and you will show it. But there's a hand here. Let me.
I'm just curious how you're going to deal with the 40-foot drop-off that's sort of right in the middle of where this solar array is. Have you seen it?
The question is how we are going to deal with the 40-foot drop-off in this design.
Yep. Yeah, so the topography there, it was a heavily worked gravel pit, no doubt. And part of the economics in the project is to regrade it, not the 40-foot drop-off. That the one I'm thinking of is, there were probably a couple of them, but there was one that was on the western side, and we are not changing that grade at all. And actually, where the trees are located in the imagery, that includes the shading in our production analysis. So we are not changing that at all. The smaller till, like the relatively smaller mounds of stone, are going to be graded out, and
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about on the northern side, sort of to the north-southwest, to the southwest side. There's about a 40-foot drop-off. We were just out there walking it. I didn't even want to get close to the edge for fear that, it was going to collapse and I'd go cobbling down 40 feet. I mean, it's a significant cliff. Is that where it is?
I think it's actually a little bit further to the south. Yeah. Closer to by the blue line. Yeah.
So this thing is on the other side of the cliff then? Is that what you're saying?
And on that, in addition to this, we have these drawings. We have a couple of 3D, slides here, but also we are planning to do show and tell on the side, I think on April 26th, which is Sunday. I hope that. 26th of April, Sunday. So our goal is we'll ask Select, and I will volunteer Brian, why not, just to put some stakes here that we can see, because when we did the walkthrough, we had the same thing, okay, where the heck this starts? Okay, so then, thanks to Byron, he brought his wheel to measure. So we put some rocks here or there, and then we went into 500 feet deep just to in the design number 2 that, past designs. And yes, we encountered ticks, fine, but, it's a way of life over there. I had to take 3 showers. I'm new to New England, what can I say? Yeah, we'll do show and tell. It's really important for you to say that, okay, yeah, we see it. You don't have to like it, but at least I want to make sure that you see it, okay? So, okay.
That's, what's the next? Oh, the next slide was just kind of this is a 3D rendering of our preferred option. Again, you can see, we're leaving the trees where they are outside of the setback area, or within the setback area. And then the next slide. So this is when you have the setbacks in place, like as you come into the gravel pit, there's that initial area with the logs, and it looks like there's tons of space up there. But when you actually do the setbacks from each side, there's really not that much space for the solar system. So we've
So
looked at,
if I may, in this scenario, again, this is 120 feet and then 75 feet from here. So then it doesn't leave much area to really put panels. And then they couldn't place any solar panels here. Then they need to dig it, kind of, what do you call it?
200 feet trench.
200 feet trench,
And
that
that just
makes
didn't,
the
economically, that didn't
Yeah.
make sense. Oh, between if you were going to connect the two systems, like if you had the system further to the north, you need to connect the two together, and this was not an optimal design for the system. So the one that we were looking at previously, where it's all consolidated in one area, that's kind of on the northern section of the bigger area, that's where it would be.
But we really want to get some feedback on the reason why the system isn't moved further north up on the screen is because of that 120-foot setback on the west side. There's an elbow where it's because of 120 feet, it's really preventing the system from being installed further up toward the top of the page. I don't know. Yep.
I'm a little bit confused by the diagram. It looks like there are green trees outside the boundary of the gravel pit. Why, am I misreading that?
You're not. They took part of my yard. I can see my house very clearly.
You're talking about in the west?
This is my house. Right. So before, in the previous one, it had it starting at my house in your previous diagram. And now it's all behind my house. And now it's also behind Sherry's house, and this would be Gail Kepline's house. And then now it looks like Steve and Zoe Hart don't have it at the end. So, but yeah, this isn't like that. I have the stone wall. It doesn't look like that at all.
So
it's an inaccurate
is this a graphics mistake or is this a plan?
No, I think this came directly from Mass GIS. So it's the Massachusetts GIS property lines that we use in the generation.
I think I can see a property line on that map right there. Look at
There should be.
look at the orange ellipse. On the right-hand side, there's a string of green trees.
It is possible that.
And there's a boundary line, and its trees are to the right of the boundary line.
You're referring to the conservation land next to the east.
No, I'm,
And these are the trees that you're.
Yeah, the property line isn't a big curve.
property line is straight. Look at the upper right where the orange ellipse.
So the size of the bubble for the trees represents the height of them. So if they put the pen here and it's like a 60-foot tree. If they put the pen for the tree here and it's 60 feet, it becomes a bigger orb on the map. So the designer, so here's the property line, and these trees are they are tall trees right here. So that's why you would have those bigger orbs.
Where is the pen for this tree? It looks like it's outside the property line.
Yep, this pen would be outside the property line.
Yeah, and I see the same thing right here for this tree. This is Ruth's house. That tree is about half the distance from the boundary to her house.
Well, we can take it as an action to identify which trees are inside. My understanding was it was just higher, but you do have a fair point on these, so I'll get more information on it.
What's the purpose of the trees in the rendering?
It's for our shading. It's our shading
trees?
analysis. Yeah.
Isn't it important to have it regardless of whether they're on the property line or not? Or for the shading analysis?
From our perspective, from a shading perspective, we definitely need to know the height and location of the trees.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think shading is sort of going to be problematic because you're putting a solar array
It is.
adjacent properties. And so you have these trees that are going to come in, and as the sun moves across the property, the shade's going to move across the property.
And that has been factored into the analysis and the production. But you're right. If it was in a wide open elevated field, the production would be higher on a per kilowatt basis.
So in the production calculations, that time of the day, the shading, and also it is winter versus summer versus month, and there are tables in the production that what is the production is going to be January, February, March throughout the year. So you are absolutely correct. There is no one production number. It varies based on the month of the year and also shadings. And what this is depicting more than anything, that two things. One is we account for the shading, but more importantly, we are trying to minimize the cutting down the mature trees. So this is, I don't want you to say that, hey, you don't know where the property line is. This is somewhat three-dimensional and taking account the height of the trees, which indicates that, look, we don't want to really cut these trees. And this is more accurate for the property lines.
Okay, yeah, so this takes out our shade analysis. And so here's the property line without just overlaid on the GIS map. So these are the trees that exist between the edge of the system and the property line. And the ones that you were seeing in here that are the really high ones are probably like right in this area, but
They're both really high.
yeah. But this is what the trees look like. Yeah.
Regarding the buffer. So regarding this 120-foot buffer in this section, so what I'm hearing from you is you don't intend to remove any of the trees that are currently there, because in that section, there's deciduous, and then there's a section before you have the 15 to 20-foot cliff, and right before that cliff is a section probably maybe 10 feet wide of conifers. So if you're looking right here, this section is 60-foot trees, and then right where the cliff at that 120 feet mark, 110 feet mark, depending on that, I'm going from my property line, so it changes. That's conifers then. So is your intention not to remove any of those?
Our intention would not be to remove any of the trees to the west of the fence.
Okay, so is that in the 120-foot section?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you show on the map where the fire road is that goes all the way to the south side in case there's a brush fire or that type of thing? Fire contingency? Or have you folks not talked to the fire department yet still?
We have not talked to the fire department.
No, it's going to be a part of it.
Oh, so the rigorous analysis that you talked about earlier hasn't actually occurred yet?
I think that there are certain steps that, I can.
Fire's pretty basic.
No, I know, but we can talk to fire department, but we don't have the really basic, acknowledgement, and we don't know whether or not this makes sense. So it's part of it. As Brian indicated in the earlier slide, that we'll be having those conversations.
So why it's important here is to know when you're doing that 120-foot, and then you have a fence going up where the road is, because you may need to change your plan again and make it smaller if you have to have a road in there to reach all the way to the end.
Well, I think a lot of this, those are great points. A lot of this comes out of conversations with the planning board. A lot of this comes out of conversations with the planning board. Once the project moves forward and, we have the designs and the renderings, we have to go before the planning board. We go to the fire department, and we have to get the additional approvals necessary to build it. And so that all gets factored into the final designs.
Set at all, because you may have to add a road.
Well, we may have to do a lot. I mean, the design may actually change based on town leadership. I mean, and that was part of the timeline earlier, is we're trying to listen, create a design that works best for the town. And then if it moves forward, there's still a bunch of town approvals that need to happen that can inform the location of the panels and the final built state.
Hi, Pete Jackson. I think Ruth has a very good point. In fact, if the fire department needed some access, at least to one side of it may reduce the capacity of the solar array. In other words, it might be 1.2 megawatts rather than 1.4. Exactly. And does that upset the federal tax incentive?
No.
No? Okay. But does it make it less practical to put an array there if it gets that small or even smaller?
Well, I think if building the fire road or improving it, what I can say is having walked through here, having walked through here a number of times, I can't imagine a fire truck navigating through this parcel successfully to the other side at all. Right. And so I think if it becomes important for the fire department to have a road and we accommodate that as part of the project, that would be based on Harvard's leadership and the design requirements that we're building it. But we certainly would not be disturbing an existing path that the fire department is using or planning to use at this point.
Great, thank you. My name is Bob Douglas. I'm 163 Stowe Road. I would first like to say thank you very much for all of these public hearings. This is great. I appreciate specifically the scrutiny that the selectmen are taking to this. I'm a long-term proponent of solar. I've worked as a regulator for large solar fields before. What I'd like to speak to, though, and again, just as a private citizen, is the natural aspects of this. This is a very sensitive area, and I'd just like to read something very briefly from the Open Space Committee vision. As the town population increases, so does the need to protect finite natural, historical, and cultural resources. It is necessary to acquire or otherwise protect undeveloped forest lands, agricultural lands, recreational lands, ecologically sensitive lands, critical fish and wildlife habitats, unique landscape, scenic vistas, historically significant features, landscape for the function, values, and benefits they provide. So one thing that really calling this a gravel pit is a misnomer, because it is a heavily forested area. It's got large oaks, it's got pines, it's got ash trees on it, has a very well-functioning biological system, particularly in the back area, which is the polygon that's shown on the map right now. That is, it appears to be almost virgin forest at this point, because it is so well regrown. I'm sure this was a gravel pit decades and decades ago, but I've not, in the decades that I've lived here, I've never seen it function for anything other than light storage of loam or logs or things like that. So I don't believe it really is a gravel pit. Additionally, this is an area that's used by the public. I walked back there. I was doing wildlife observations, and I run into dog walkers and say hi. Many of them are in this room tonight. Interestingly enough, I took a look at the Natural Heritage, which keeps track of endangered species, and there are two species that are not directly on this lot, but are immediately adjacent to it. There's a symbol there just to the right of the roadway that comes in that area that is shaded as a habitat for endangered species. Now, these endangered species are kept secret because the state doesn't want people collecting a turtle or whatever it might be. But I do know that one of them was discovered immediately across the street from that, within sight of this. So if this is a town that is interested in protecting endangered species, this well already could be a habitat for them. So these are important things to consider. Lastly, the open space plan, 92% of people strongly wish, according to their survey, wish to have land protected, which is to say keep the forest protected. So, you know, I would submit of the many other places that have been looked at, rooftops and other places in town, this is a place where you would not want to build a solar array because it could have profound effects on what's called the green belt, which in this area is constituted by Enchanted Meadows, Harvard Town Conservation Land, as well as Harvard Conservation Trust land. So I do think that I am a solar advocate, and I very much appreciate the time and work the committees have put into this, but I don't believe this is a proper place to put such an array. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. The high level, as we indicated, and Adam Meyer, who has been driving the financials, unfortunately has a conflict, couldn't be here. So we looked at multiple options, as we have been communicating. One is, for sure, do nothing. That's a choice for us. And then we said, can we buy it upfront? Why not? Because it's a good thing to do. Or can we do 20-year credit purchase agreement with the option to buy after year 7? And then we shared tonight 2 different designs that we came up with. So these are the CPA. So really, and as you can imagine, there are bigger spreadsheets behind these numbers. The key is we look at what's the upfront cost. For us to purchase, it's around a $4 million purchase. For us to do that, we need to provide around $500,000 upfront. Some of it to go towards securing the tax credits. The other to pay Solec to do deeper engineering study, and then some to National Grid. And then we need to fund, say, a 20-year municipal bond for $3.5 million. Here, we buy it later, year 8. Again, we need to raise around $2 million municipal bond to do that. And then doing the CPA options, then there is no upfront cost. And then what changes is the recommended option design will give us $125,000 savings against our $428,000 municipal electricity bill, which is today's number. So it will increase. And if I fast forward, then over 20 years, we'll experience around $2.3 million value out of this. So this is the financial, the next one, please. And very high level, the assumptions, what went into this financial model, 20-year CPA. Price is subject to engineering, geotech, utility approval. What it means is, if we, as we go through this process, one of the steps, most important step is to work with National Grid, and they need to do engineering on their end. And the current timeline is it could be up to 12 to 18 months for that study. And after that, they might come back and say, hey, for us to accommodate this take-in electricity, I need to do a bunch of engineering, pay me $120,000, $200,000. So then it will bring the financials upside down. Price does not include cost for utility upgrades. This is what I talk about. Assume that soil does not include any environmental hazards, then it will introduce additional. We assume that 30% tax credit is achieved here. And the key is, again, battery is not included in this design, and then no upfront payment, and pilot and lease payments are embedded in the overall financial model, and that's how the credit discount calculated.
Can you explain how the 30% tax credit works?
Sure. So overall, we benefit, in the short answer. Town of Harvard benefits it. The 30% tax credit, Solek calculated that they will experience, which is around $1.2 million or so. And then it gives us this $125,000 a year savings. If that tax credit is not in place, if we cannot get it, then we don't achieve, and if we do that without the tax credit, then we are in the negative. So we experience it goes to Solek, they reduce our payments by that much. If you go to earlier slide, in this scenario, yes, we get it directly, but our financial outlook isn't as good because we get the municipal bond and we pay 5% over 20 years. Then it reduces the financial model for us. So in any case, regardless of that money payment made to us or to Harvard, this all models accounts for it. At the end of the day, doesn't matter where it goes, we benefit from that. Yes, ma'am.
So you've just said it doesn't include the upgrade cost. What have you seen in the past at other sites? Because these numbers are irrelevant if that number is very high. And so any amount that you have up there is revenue. If I know last time we were here, you threw out a number that if it's 2 million, that might be a place where you would say, okay, the town needs to revisit that. It may not be worthwhile to do it. So is 2 million the upper limit for those upgrades, or is it some other number? And that would then suggest that what you folks are putting up there as a return will not be a return. The other thing that's not included up here, and I know you had another slide, it says, oh, home values aren't necessarily changed. I am one of those homes, okay? And at least talking to a variety of realtors, I've heard between 7 and 10%. So when you say the town doesn't incur a cost, that's wrong. I am part of this town, I am a resident, and I will incur a cost, which then should be reflected in a change in my assessment because I'm paying for this in a loss of value and retirement funding. So you do see people on there who are incurring costs. Also, additionally, I should say, going back to that concept is you are now setting a standard for this town that we should put a commercial site of solar arrays in a residential area where you do have residential abutters. So the concept then is really that you could potentially have kids playing next to the solar array. And that's now the vision. And so you'll want to upgrade the mission and objectives of the town of Harvard because it's not reflecting what was said earlier about what the town would look like if you're choosing to put a commercial solar array in a residential area.
I will react to the first one, the upgrades in general, as we said earlier. And Brian, could you bring the slide? There's next steps, kind of X's and check marks timeline.
You weren't here when he mentioned the $2 million number.
Yeah, this one, but in general, a couple of things. All these things, interconnection study, okay? If the numbers come back and it will cost arm and leg for them to do the interconnection, then we'll go to this X. If the DPW and fire says, you know what, we cannot work with that because we need to give them something to react to say that, okay, this is good or bad, then this project will not go back. And I'm not sure $2 million cost. Do you remember that last meeting?
You used that as the upper limit. So then the question would be, when you're figuring out these numbers here, when you're figuring out these numbers here, I know you said it doesn't include any of the upgrade requirements that National Grid might expect. What is a number? What's the minimum amount? Because that should be reflected in the numbers, because the numbers you have right now are meaningless.
The minimum number included in their financials is typical across the board is $20,000. Okay, am I correct with that, around that range, if I hear?
So just in terms of the assumptions, I think this chart is the way to look at it, because there's probably 60 different variables, everything from the fire department. There's environmental studies that we do to make sure that we're not disturbing, endangered species. There's soil samples we do, and we're embarking in that. And those studies are expensive. And so we really want to make sure that the project is a good fit and well aligned from a design perspective with the town before spending, all those resources at once. I can say that when we did the modeling for this, it was based on having done like 600 projects in Massachusetts of different sizes. And the assumptions were based on that. They have not been tested by engineers, like a geotechnical engineer, to study the water runoff. And Pete had mentioned that in previous meetings. So that's the kind of thing that still needs to happen. The way that we address that, though, is in a credit purchase agreement, we have the expected discount rate, or the rate that Harvard would pay, and that's what goes into the savings model. Then we have a minimum discount rate, which is kind of like what we would see as an outer limit, kind of worst case scenario. Harvard can say yes or no to that threshold, right? And that's what defines the path. So if the economics don't match for the town, there is no obligation to proceed, and we're at risk for that. So that conversation all needs to happen as part of, the step number 2 up there, the conditional CPA. One of those conditions is the savings profile and the dollar value at which would be transferring the credits to the town. But that's that piece of it. And then everything gets compared to that conditional, CPA throughout the term. And if the project isn't a fit, it doesn't advance. If it is a fit, then, I think Harvard would benefit from a good project. I really do. So.
It still then means that the select board has chosen to change the sort of charter of Harvard to make it permissible to put solar commercial arrays in residential areas. And so they're no longer going to go for the bucolic atmosphere in Harvard. They're choosing to do something different.
I think that we need to, this is a personal response, okay? There are, as I learn, I'm going to complete my select board tenure in May. It's going to be my year 1. As I'm learning, there are so many parameters in any decisions that we try to make as volunteers. And some of those parameters tend to be conflicting or pushing one parameter to other way or this way. For our 2.5% dictated tax increase, and actually I had meetings with today Berlin and Bolton Select Board members, just we compare notes. And also I reached out earlier, some other towns who signed, who built the solar panels, just ask them, what are the gotchas? How can we protect Harvard? So across the board, the challenge is, in general, our cost profile is growing. We do nothing. It's still, our COLA expenses, we up 3.4%. We are in the negotiations with teachers unions, DPW unions. So these things are growing. And then our budget is, 2.4% increase on the revenue. And the additional new revenue we look at is, if you look at our budget, is estimated $100,000, period. It's a $36 million or so budget that we are coming to you in town meeting. $100,000 new revenue. The rest is coming from 2.5. And the pressure on the expense side is really growing. So what we are trying to do is, we are not trying to really impact the beauty of Harvard. Within that, we are trying to find selective projects to, make some meaningful contribution. This is from the point of view that, can I increase the revenue or can I reduce the cost? So this project is not to change a beautiful residential area. This project is, without impacting you dramatically, how can we add value to Harvard? Without impacting wildlife, how can we? And again, as we try to depict early on, this is not going to be the first project, or this is not the first one, but this is not the last one either. We need to find other projects as Harvard. Otherwise, I don't know how to really tell you with comfort that it is okay, everything will be okay. No, we're not going to increase your residential taxes, but then we'll continue to provide the services. Honestly, I have been in the budget inside and out this throughout the year. I read each line of the budget. I know where we have what. So, collectively, sincerely, we are in a tough spot. So these are the projects we are trying to come up with without changing the character of the Harvard. Okay? I sincerely appreciate you are, I don't under...
You would be changing the character of Harvard. And so
Okay.
I disagree with your statement fundamentally.
Correct. I understand and I respect that.
Thank you, Ahmet. I think from, my wife grew up here. We've been here for 23 years. Your service to the town is honorable, right? Anyone who volunteers, and I know I've watched too many selectmen meetings over the last that I care to watch, so thank you guys. And but I'll say this. I don't think there's someone in this room who is against solar. I think we're all for it. Well, I'm not going to I'm for it. Okay. So I think the disconnect is the rush. Okay. We have attended planning board meetings. We've attended the planning board joint meeting with the select board. You saw a planning board member visibly hesitant to vote ahead of the warrant, approving the warrant language, right? Because the public hearings had not been yet completed, right? So that's another point, a discoverable moment in which it feels rushed. Like we're asking questions about health and safety standards. And I think going back in history, there has been a number of decisions made by the volunteer board, good, bad, and different. Perhaps they were right at the time, but we have built 2 schools in a matter of 30 years, 1990, 2016, that cost taxpayers millions of dollars. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. I wasn't present in the town, but those were decisions that the town made. The closing of the town, the landfill, the capping of that wasn't a town decision. I'm sure the selectmen were involved at some point, rushed or not. Monday morning quarterback is very easy to play in these situations. Pete Jackson can talk about library, the initial library design, how it was not voted for at the town meeting, right? It came back with a purposeful, like a beautiful building. But had we voted for it as a town at the initial point, we would have got stuck with something subpar. So I say, this isn't about us or about me personally being against solar. It's about what seems to be a rush situation to get this thing done, to break ground before July 4th, so we can achieve that 30% tax credit. We're asking, slow down. We've asked, have you done your research on different sites in town? And all we get are the designs, redesigns. And thank you for listening. I think it matters. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that you are going from 0 to 120 to get us to the May 2nd meeting. You're hoping for a yes, but the rest of the town should know, should reflect on all the past decisions of the select board that have gone great and that have failed. And the ones that have failed have cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. Well, have cost the town millions of dollars, socialized hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you.
Are you guys done with your presentation, or do you have more to do?
Unfortunately, I'm going to need to leave shortly after 8 o'clock, but I wanted to let you know, I was trying to build in enough time, but there's another meeting after this that
I'll be very brief. My name is Paul Green. Some of you know me. I'm the manager of the Harvard Solar Garden here in Harvard. It's located next to Sorrento's Pizza and Harvard Power Equipment. In fact, it's right behind Harvard Power Equipment. You may never have seen it because we're in the back of the lot towards Bowers Brook. I don't know if our solar system is physically anything like what you're trying to install, but we have ground mount solar panels. We've had them for 12 years or so. They're aimed south. They're on land that has trees around it. We've made provisions for wildlife. We have a place for the turtles to nest each year that we had to construct as a result of the Conservation Commission here in Harvard. And I would be happy to work with Ahmet and Brian. I used to be on the Energy Advisory Committee for a while, and Select to organize a tour so you can see what a solar system looks like up close. You can hear our transformer if you get right next to it. I had a person ask me if they could come and hear the noise the system made, and I said, well, you have to come between midnight and 4 a.m. because otherwise the cars are going to drown it out, you know. So anyway, I'd be happy to work with the town. I have a key to the gate, you know, we can get in, and just let me know, because it's up and running, and the people who bought into it 12, 13 years ago are basically getting free electricity now. Thanks, Ahmet. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Paul. I think we'll take you on that. Can you go to the next slide? So, you know, this is again the summary chart, and let's go one more. So the other questions, you know, about what about your, you know, contractually, you know, we have a checklist how the CPA should be, and we have a Newtown counsel firm, KP Law, and they have done many CPA arrangements. They also work with Solek and others. And as I said, I reach out to other towns to see what they did, you know, what are the things that we need to pay attention on the CPA. So this is a very high-level summary of, you know, approach, financial protections, risk management, good number of risk on Solek. Before he goes, I want to make sure that he hears it. And then, you know, protection against changing utility regulations, clear calculation of the credit, as Byron mentioned, is part of the CPA. And then the land protection, how it's going to be done based on the state and the local regulations, planning board and, other committees will drive that. Safety standards. They have to adhere what state imposes. And this includes, all the fire protections, everything, and then wildlife protections. Decommissioning and restoration is their responsibility if you decide to decommission after 20 years. And there's going to be a financial assurance, the bonding. And then at the end of the 20 years, if you go with that, we have the option to say we'll dismantle it, or we have the option to say, well, look, this goes well. The gear is still in good shape, and then we can continue to experience, and we'll have the terms to buy it at the end of the day, and there will be periodic assessment of the value going forward. So I think. Really, this is the somewhat last slide for us. Couple of things. I hear you. Are we rushing or not? Okay. So I don't have a good answer to really somewhat satisfy that question properly from the point of view that I think we have been going through good checks and balances. And yes, we can punt it to next year, okay? Yes, we say that, we are not going to get the 30% tax incentives. It's a choice for us as a town. Perfect. And then the financials will not make sense without the tax, okay? There is a debate. Big, beautiful bill is eliminating the tax incentives. On the other hand, the hearsay is there is pressure on the federal government to bring them back. We can say that, look, we are going to wait. We are going to do, another year or so due diligence. And then we decide to go forward. There could be still tax incentives. Who knows? Federal government does interesting things. There might not be. So, at the end of the day, we hear everything. We are trying to shape it in a manner that we address as many items that as you give us as input. But sincerely, I don't think, in any project, we can address 100% of the concerns, okay? So one of the reasons, I personally debated about that, and I'll be very transparent with you. Should we take it out, really? Let's just say that let's put it in another 12 months of study. It's a personal debate at night, okay? I'll think about that again tonight when I go back over a glass of wine or two, who knows. Then, the point that I came, about maybe it's not just to us, to me, let's let the town to tell us that you are rushing during the town vote. So if the town at large feels that we really rush it, they will tell us. It's not going to be anything. We'll say, okay, we'll regroup, we'll come up with something different, okay? So you still have lots of sway, lots of impact, lots of time to define the outcome here. So I don't want you to go back in a manner that, first of all, I hope you saw throughout the changes we have been hearing you. Only thing that we haven't changed is the location. I want to be very open here. But we are making so much changes. We are getting lots of engineering cycles from SOLEC. No payment. So these are all values, but if we are looking at, Doug, I sincerely appreciate the concerns. The fencing, we are looking at the fencing that wildlife friendly, high up from the ground, then they, creatures could go under it. Some creatures cannot go under it. I hope they can go around it. Okay, so we are kind of thinking through how can we do the vegetation, how can we do this, do that. But that's kind of, at least the key is, you might not like the project, I respect that. But know that we are hearing and we are trying to come up with creative ideas. Yes, ma'am.
So I know that Governor Healy's administration has a climate change initiative, and they're pro-solar. I'm pro-solar. But they also say that green energy shouldn't be at the expense of green environment. And I think that that's the position, that's how we're feeling collectively as a group. And so one of the things that we looked into is how many cities across the Commonwealth have installed solar arrays on capped landfills. 106 cities in Massachusetts have capped their landfill. They've been managed to figure out how to pay for it and to cap it, and then put a more efficient, larger solar array on that landfill footprint. And I just wonder, if you crunch the numbers, how much money it's going to cost Solec to install a whole bunch of individual solar arrays throughout town, on the roofs, on the parking lots, where if you took the money that you're incurring to do that clearing of the land and applied it to the cost to cap that landfill, for which the town has strict liability. I mean, it's not something that you can just ignore. And so this is one way of absorbing some or covering some of the costs of that capping by, putting on a solar array there. And I just think that it just would make so much more sense than to have all these individual pockets of solar arrays all over Harvard.
Can I just say one thing? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to head out. Super grateful for your time. I want to do everything I can to support the town in its initiative. I mean, as Ahmet said, at this point, we only get paid if a project gets built. And we're working directly for the town in any way that we can, and this is certainly a part of it. So I appreciate the feedback. We've been trying to be as diligent as we can in terms of incorporating that into the project. And so we'll be here for the journey, however it goes, but just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Byron. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Drive safely. Yes.
Thanks, Ahmet. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm seeing how our feedback is shaping your plans over time. And I just wanted to say I appreciate Bob's. Maybe Bob headed out. I appreciate what Bob said. I think it's just kind of paramount, among my concerns. I saw your mention that part of the changes to the plan would be to address the environmental concerns, and I heard some mention of wildlife fencing, and I don't know if you could give more detail about, concretely, how did the plan change, and in what ways is it meant to mitigate the impact on the environment?
Yes, we are looking at different state guidance and how, what exactly we can do from the wildlife-friendly fencing, and we'll provide you that information at the next information session. So it is, high-level guidance is keep it, higher up the ground. Don't just bring it at the ground level, so that smaller size animals could travel underneath there. So this is, one of the key. And as, Solar Garden has it, pollination and, Solar Garden honey is whatever. So, those are all gonna be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, the Conservation Commission gets the last say on this. And so just to throw a fact on the table, they required us to bury our fence. Okay. So it wasn't something we picked. It was the Conservation Commission saying they didn't want turtles and wildlife getting in there and getting trapped or anything. So our fence goes 6 or 8 or 7 inches under the ground, for example. So just be aware that as much as all of your ideas sound very reasonable here, you're all volunteers in some sense in this as everybody else is in town. There are other agencies and people with greater experience in some of these areas that have legal authority to force other solutions. So, just be aware of that.
Thanks for disclaimer. I appreciate you kept me on the safe side. No, I mean, the promise is we are looking into those. So that is the promise.
Are there other areas besides the fencing? I guess that's the main thing is I heard the fencing. Are there other areas besides the fencing you're looking into?
Yes, so we'll come back to you with those. Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank the group. Come a long way since that first session. There's still questions, though, and I still get the feeling this is being rushed, and I see the planning board attempting to amend the bylaws for solar arrays, and they don't have enough time to have adequate public hearings before a town meeting. And I see some frustration on their part because they're getting rushed. I think I had asked at one point, and I think your economic or financial matrix up there shows the assumption that we get the tax benefit, the incentive, if we pass town meeting. Where's the numbers that if we don't get that, would this project still go ahead? And what would the benefit, the solar benefit be without that tax credit? So one of the things, the assumption I think you made the very first session was this tax credit may go away. So I don't know, maybe it will come back. So the example that Rolando gave about the library, it was a rush to get the first idea through to be able to apply to the Mass Library Commissioners for a grant, cost sharing. Got the architect, rushed it through, got the architect on board. The architect came up with one that met all the requirements the state wanted, and it failed because it was ugly. It was failed because it had no respect to Old Brownfield. So we waited till the next round of finances from the state, but now we did it the right way. I happen to be on the building committee. I voted against the first one, but now I'm part of the building committee for the second one. But we took time, and I think I still get this gut feeling that this project has gone too fast, not giving the planning board enough time, not getting all of our questions answered. They answered quite a few. I appreciate that. Being a project manager and public involvement for 30 years for the federal government, we usually have answers to some of the things that you're pushing off for review, conservation, environmental impact. Might be just a broad brush answer to some of those questions about wildlife movement and that sort of thing. And then later on, if the project moves forward, then you get into the deeper, more studies, more groundwater studies, and whatever testing has to be done. So signing this lease gives me the impression that you're moving too fast and that some of these things that you're pushing off should be answered now because it may break the project. Might want to know if this project's going to move forward earlier, even before you sign the lease. That's just my feeling. But I appreciate what you've done so far.
Thank you. And just to answer the first question, you answer, what if you don't get the 30% ITC? The project shows over 20 years around $200,000 negative. Okay, it's around $10K per year negative. So bottom line is, if you don't get the ITC, then we don't, move with the project. And again, moving forward, or which step has to be first? If we don't, some way to tell, select that, yes, we want to move forward with it, given certain conditions, they're not going to spend money to study, to go to the national grid to start the engineering study. And they're not going to pay money to do the soil sampling, other tests that they need to. It's kind of, we can, or what we can say that as Harvard, we are going to initiate a large-scale study across the town, and then we are going to spend our own money, which is okay. This is our choice. Then we'll do a bunch of tests across different lands we have, and the ones that suits that's also an option. I totally appreciate. Other questions? I know it's getting late, so I don't want to keep you here.
So hearing you say that it would be a negative 200K without the 30%, that's concerning to me.
Let me give you the exact number. $908,050 year one, negative. And then the cumulative savings is $187,000 negative over 20 years.
So that concerns me because it means that the amount of benefit is all dependent on the 30%, which means your stream and all of this risk analysis could decrease very quickly. And without doing all the early risk analysis before you sign a lease, before you do things, it means you've just increased your risk, and it makes a lot, as well as then potentially in this one area, the amount of changes you would do to a neighborhood, and you can add in the animal, the conservation, the loss of home value for a very small benefit, because you're looking at the 30% is what's being required for you to make money on this. What are the analysis that you've done on the larger property that you called it the Stowe 495 corridor? I think it's what parcel 81, as well as on the already cleared property over at the dump that you have to clean it up anyhow and cap it. These are things that you're going to incur these expenses anyhow. So I'm wondering if, when you look at the benefit of those sites versus placing it in a residential neighborhood with residential abutters, and I appreciate that you're increasing the buffer and putting all those things, that is recognized. But it just seems like the amount that you might lose by placing that in that location in a residential neighborhood for a very slim margin of benefit, it's questionable. And I know you like to, I'm hearing that the town needs to create revenue. A revenue stream doesn't have to just be created through solar. It can be created in other ways. And at the planning meeting, they were talking about the commercial and how they wanted to limit the commercial, but yet there's a revenue. So there's other areas where money can be made, but it's also being limited. Just, I wouldn't place all of your revenue and put it dependent on the public, just on solar.
I really appreciate, and I agree with you on that. So this reminds me, my anecdote here, just bear with me. A couple of weeks ago, there was a letter to editor published, and it was about one resident rightfully indicating that Select Board is focusing on renewable energy and other things instead of fixing the transfer station trash bag shortage. So I told one of my peers, I said, really we need to show our residents that we can chew gum and walk at the same time. So within that spirit, we are looking at, I am driving this, trying to drive this with Brian here, okay? But other members of the select board are focusing on other elements. We are trying to see what we can do on the air road. We are looking at some other revenue opportunities. So you are absolutely correct. This is not going to fix our revenue, and this is not the only show in town. We are trying to really look at everything somewhat a little out of the box, okay? So, but yet again, it is at the end of the day your decision. Our ability is to bring you projects, to shape and reshape the project based on your input. That is only power we have. The rest is to you, your vote, okay, in multiple ways. Okay, town vote, next select board election. You can say, you know what, I want people who would do these things. So you have lots of power, please use it, okay? But we hear you, okay? Yes?
A general question on the 3 warrants. Which I think at a macro level scares me more than anything else, right? So I think the way they're worded and in the order, and I'm not sure the order right now, but one speaks to the lease to select, right? In general. But there's also a separate warrant around the solar zoning. At a macro level, if we don't get the 30%, and it's unattainable, it's not a good project, the warrant article passes solar, anyone can come in, and these neighborhood talks that you're doing right now, you won't necessarily need to do, right? You just have to go through the proper permitting purposes, and I think that's probably scarier than not. Right, so is there an opportunity for you guys to, I don't know, logistically, I'm not a town govy guy, to figure that piece out?
Can I address that?
Yeah, but before you do that, you said something earlier, let the town decide. And certainly, I applaud that, I believe that. We live in a very progressive town, and solar will pass, I think, okay? The fact of the matter is, we're the abutters. We're the people that have to live with it every single day, day in and day out. Forget, I know that there's going to be proper setbacks and all that, but at the end of the day, if you live on Simon Atherton, right, road, you're not going anywhere near Stowe Road. If you live on the other side of Bolton Road, you may cross us maybe from time to time, but for the most part, you have no business on Stowe Road unless you're going to pick up a kid or see a friend, right? So, yes, generally speaking, let the town decide. And our vote as abutters isn't more impactful, it's the same, but our voice matters. Right, so I do thank you for taking the time to go through this, and I've seen, like everyone else, have seen the changes, and they're all positive, I think, for the most part. But if the warrant article just approving the gravel pit for a solar parcel or zoning, that could be more dangerous to our community, to the abutters than anything else.
Appreciate the comments. On the issue about the bylaw, my understanding is that, and currently the landfill is in that overlay district identified as a parcel. It already exists, that bylaw already exists. The change as far as parcels go, it's adding 2 more parcels. It doesn't change the fact, it doesn't create an opportunity. My understanding is that by identifying those parcels, those are the ones that are allowed through this process to proceed, and the silence of anything else means it's not allowed. that's the legal interpretation that we were told. Right.
And yet, on those 3 parcels, there's only 1 parcel that has residential abutters, and you're choosing to work on that one first.
I think the other parcel has residential butters, yeah.
The dump.
No, the store 495 parcel, yeah. There's very few there's very few, from what I understand, there's very few municipal properties that don't have residential abutters.
So the other property is so much larger that they could have a much larger buffer. An acre buffer, there you go.
Okay, other questions?
Could you tell us what the revenue expectation is for Harvard, as well as the revenue expectation out of your third, I don't know if it was the second or third diagram, that would be returned to Select? So the revenue returned to Select and the revenue returned to the town.
The revenue return to
It can
town.
be done by percentage.
Okay, we'll come up with that percent.
Are you referring to the for the tax credit, just overall?
Overall.
Yeah.
So the tax credit, I understood, just comes at the beginning.
Right.
And it's not something that's reoccurring for 20 years.
Right.
So what would be the revenue return for Harvard? Revenue return for Harvard and the revenue return for Select? Because clearly Select wants to make some money in this process.
Sure, and that's the model includes that information, and if we have to go any deeper, we can do that through Power Options, which it has a credit amount that.
So from the percent return for Harvard, our overall return per year versus over the life of the project. And then our investment is at this point 0, but the land. Then the question becomes, what else we are going to do with the land, which is, the option is here, no return on that. And I'll answer your question about Solek. I'll look at the details of the financials and then what's their return. But they are capped how much return they can make in this.
Oh, they're capped by the state?
In a way, state through the Power Options. Because they are working under the umbrella of Power Options. The reason we are working that umbrella, they cap how much RRR they can get in a given project. Right. So it limits their profit. They still make money. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this business. But it's capped through that umbrella relationship. Hence, also, we did not need to go to RFP process working with multiple vendors. It is Power Options does this every 2 years or every year, select certain vendors, and they give them, these are the financial parameters that if you work with municipality, this is what you need to do. So they become our checkers.
Another question. Of course. So, since he's not here, he's very nice. I'm just curious why you would choose to go with Select, where the vast majority of their business is related to canopies and roof, and I understand you already have a working relationship with them. And I understand they're an approved vendor, but there's other vendors that have been doing land arrays, whether it be in Concord, Lincoln Sudbury, or Boxborough. It sounds like it's a different company for the Harvard Garden. Why you wouldn't choose a company that's more experienced in that versus a company that admittedly said at the last meeting hopes to expand their business in that direction?
You are absolutely correct. We look into that, and there are many companies. They do, ground-based solar, everything. And under the Power Options umbrella, Solek is one of the key vendors. The second piece of it is we have had good, experience with Solek through different projects that they did for town, from their reliability on town, everything. And as I said, I also talked to some other towns. They had done 4 or 5 different projects with Solek. So overall, they check all the boxes. As I said, yes, we could always go and issue an, RFP to 5-6 different vendors, but also I don't see as our town we have that bandwidth.
And we did go to Power Options to say, please help us identify a developer for these projects, and they came back with Select. So the advantages of working through the Power Options, I think, is clear because they have some control over what they can charge and what they have to follow for the requirements. So.
I just have a question about the screening. Are we only, with the new design, are we just looking at screening like fencing? Are they still considering any like, I don't know, additional screening like natural trees or are they not able to with the new design?
I think that a couple of things. Number one, new design is attempting to really minimize what we have in that land. Okay, so whatever the area we clear, we are going to be adjacent to existing trees. Okay, so then, but within that, they will do typical things that this type of installations do to plant this, plant that. But from the screening point of view, we are open to put additional plantation. But the way that this is shaping up, we are going to be adjacent to the trees that when I walk to the site of the potential area, then we are next to a bunch of mature trees. So I think the land will provide its own screening, but any area which will require that additional planting, this and that, it will be done.
There could be maybe within that 120-foot buffer, some natural trees that would have, leaves all year that could work with both. So just if they're still open to that.
Correct. So, we'll do that. Other questions? Yes, sir.
One final request.
I don't believe that.
No. First of all, I'd like to get a copy of this presentation.
We'll have it posted on the website. Yeah.
Are we really going to have another session on April 16th?
At this point, I will not be here, but we are going to do that. I have another select board member to cover. I need to be at FWA.
Okay.
Yes, I will ask him to come.
Oh.
And one of the ideas, I think you talked about when you walk the land, that they put rocks down so you could see about where this footprint is. I don't know if I'm correct in that, but I think it would be a good idea to put a paint line roughly around where this is. So we go out there, we'd say, this is the fence line. We could see what trees are still there. We could walk around it and get a better idea what we're looking at.
Yes, sir. So that's our intention to do that because, very sincerely, we iterated through this, and this design that we are recommending today came to us yesterday, and financials came this morning. So we are kind of briefing you real time. But our intention is before we are hoping to do April 26th walkthrough, open to public, which is Sunday. But we will work with Select, based on this option, new option 2, we'll put markers that I want to see. So that I can at least honestly to tell you that we know what we are doing.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks, guys. You're doing a great job on the presentation. Stu Sklar, Scott Road. I wouldn't have volunteered him, but since Paul volunteered, I think this group would really benefit from walking the Harvard Solar Garden and seeing what it is, the noise, the view shed that you can barely see it until you're on top of it. But Paul volunteered to do it. He's the guy with the key. I'm just a shareholder. But it be worthwhile to see, and I think it might help allay some fears on what a solar garden really is.
Thank you, and I second that, Paul being volunteer. And Paul, how would we want to schedule that? What's your idea on that?
Should we make it a double, should we make, yeah.
A nice sunny weekend day, I would think. Anybody know how to have a sunny weekend day here in Harvard?
Do you want to make it a double session on April 26th?
We could do that, yeah.
It's an option.
Yeah, that's a good idea, you know. First see one, then see the other kind of thing. Yeah, an open house or something. Yeah, sure, why not?
So I think the consensus seems like we'll try to do maybe 26 morning to see the bees, and then afternoon we go see the ticks.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of parking, so we'll have to have people probably carpool or something.
Okay, so we'll come up with sort of an announcement and put it on the website this time early on. And I apologize for the delay for tonight's. I'll take the responsibility. I did not communicate it well, so it did not get posted until this Tuesday. So it's on me. We still have the 16th, info session. And then on the 26th, we'll meet sometime mid-morning at the Bee Garden. And then we'll migrate to, your neck of the woods to see the area.
So can I ask a question about the logistical, how the process of the town meeting works? So I understand that the town meeting and the vote are in two different locations. So how do I know when the articles are going to be voted on? And also, do they go in numerical order?
So the town meeting is May 2nd, starting at 10 a.m. Crown Hall. And we have, if I did not lose the count, around 28 articles, 29 articles, and the solar-related articles, 25, 26, or 24, 25. Early on, what I cannot tell you how much time the earlier articles will take, sincerely, but that is the order.
The town meeting is finished and then the voting starts?
During the town meeting, each article will be read out loud by one of the select board members, and people will provide their comments, positive or negative, or ask questions. And then for each article, there is going to be yay or nay vote, by the attendees of the town meeting.
And they go in numerical order?
Yes, we'll go numerical orders unless, I always want to cover what if scenarios, unless someone makes a motion, says, I want to do this in this order, whatever, but it's very unlikely. So the short question is we'll go through 1 through 28. This is the beauty of the town, that, everyone could make a motion. Whether or not motion will be accepted, it is, again, depends on the voters. But based on my extreme experience in this town last 5 years or so, these things don't happen much. So everything will go in order. We have the experts here, so.
For the garden, how many residences about it?
We're in the commercial district.
So you don't have any residents abutting it?
None that I know of.
Okay.
Turtles, bees, things like that.
They don't pay taxes, so.
Right.
Next info session also, I'd like to come up with a rule that maybe we'll charge by the question. Please bring cash. I know. We'll let you go free.
Question, just based on the values of the home. Ruth mentioned it earlier and it wasn't covered, but up there they said there was some studies done that it doesn't increase the value. I'm a real estate appraiser. I think that's completely false. It is somewhere, you are correct, like 6 to 10, depending on how close it is to your house. Is there any thought about contacting the assessors for the abutters to like lower our values so we pay less taxes? Because the truth is, like, we're going to sell our homes for less. At least, you know, if your house is worth $750, you know, 10% of that is $75,000 that I'm going to lose. You know, how is that going to be paid to us?
I don't have an answer, but I'll be happy to take that in and, you know, what can be done.
I bet you won't rush that one.
Will that be up to us to fight, or is that something that the town will automatically?
It should be included in their financials, because it's obviously a financial impact to the town, and we're residents of the town, so if it's not included.
By Massachusetts state law, your homes are reassessed every 3 years. This isn't California where they're only reassessed when you sell your house. And they're professionally reassessed. We have a professional company we bring in to do that work. And I should know because I live on Old Littleton Road, and a few years ago, the assessors decided we were a hoity-toity part of town, and so, you know, all of the assessments went up on our section. So it is very specific as to where you live in town.
So we'll be considered industrial then?
No, well, it's up to the assessor to decide, right? They will look at recent sales.
Will they help us with that? Is that what you're going to provide to the town? Because that affects the values and the tax money.
Who was the real estate agent? Somebody here identified themselves as a real estate agent. Oh, appraiser, okay. All right.
The board, they said there was studies that were done and say that there's, and that was on one of the slides. Yeah. If there is, I mean,
I'm sure that studies for both sides, it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be able to, you know, I did some research and look at some studies that, you know, different ratios across US. I'll be able to provide those as well.
If you're an appraiser, are you aware of a deduction for that then, or is it?
I don't work for the town, so I'll do real estate appraisals for banks and private parties. But the towns do it slightly differently. But there is a reduction in values. I mean, depending on how you can see it. It's different in commercial, obviously, but our values, we will get less. There is a home that someone said they're going to sell soon. I'm curious what's going to happen with that. Your name?
So under the same guidelines, anyone can appeal their assessment. Anyone can ask for, what's it called? Not a rebate, an abatement, thank you. And if you, even without having a solar system show up next door, if you look and you think, my house is assessed more than my neighbor, and he's got a much fancier house than I do, why am I paying the same taxes? You can go to the assessors. Now you have to do it within a certain deadline, right? You can't come back 5 years later and say, you know, boom, you got to do it right when you get your tax bill. But is it automatic? You're talking to the wrong people.
Proactive as a town versus reactive. You're asking us to do the work.
Well, welcome. Well, I'm tempted to say something rather cynical. I'll try to put this as nicely as I can. Our government is of necessity a very distributed entity.
Okay. We bought our house is not living next to an industrial park, so now it's being placed there. It's a little different than me buying my house. You know, when I bought it, I would have got the discount on the house versus you're plopping one down in a residential area.
Yeah, I think it's.
It'd be helpful if we could get some.
It's a good point. So let me take that in, and then before May 2nd, we'll get an answer to that.
So it means your slideshow, as nice as it was, it doesn't reflect reality when it says there's no cost to the town. There's no the slideshow didn't reflect reality when you say there's no cost to the town in this project. We are part of this town, and there is a cost to us. We are residents in this town. And so it should reflect reality, and this is why when we look at some of these slides and we say, oh, it's had a rigorous analysis, you're pushing off the analysis till after you sign the lease, which means a rigorous analysis hasn't been done. So that's why we look at these things and it's...
Yeah, I understand. I hear you, and I don't want to debate on the analysis part, but I acknowledge what you are saying, that whether or not our financial model reflects that potential impacts on your homes. Yes, I agree with that. The answer is no. Okay, so and I am open to suggestions in general. Any project we embark on in this town, how can we, make it a parameter, and how we can assess what the number should be. This is not this project. We are embarking on a bunch of other projects. Then how can we input the potential value? Other way of looking at, if you do something that potentially might increase Paul's home value, then should we claw back some of the increase? So, but I understand it doesn't reflect. Last questions, because this is the last call before the bartender closes the shop. Thanks so much. Okay, this is, I love this. I learn a lot, and I hope we give you something. And I know that we are not addressing 100%, but it's not lack of trying. Okay, thanks so much, and see you at the next episode.
Thank you.